Picture this, 1943, a little boy, alive, is thrown into a mine almost a kilometer deep and falls on a pile of corpses. Miraculously, he survives. Decades later, his testimony will help bring a real monster to justice. This story spans 33 years and connects two completely different worlds: a horrific war crime committed in the darkest days of World War II and a completely ordinary day in peaceful Soviet-era Moscow. It all started in May 1976. At rush hour in the Moscow metro, Igor Aganov, a former KGB officer, now a pensioner, was standing among the crowd of passengers just returning home on a routine trip. And then, on the oncoming escalator, he saw a face that he had not seen for more than 30 years. It was him, a Nazi collaborator known as Alyosha Lyutoy. In the Russian version, Alex the Cruel, the man whom Aganov had hunted during the war. According to all archival records, this man died decades ago, and here he stood, politely smiling, and was dressed like any respected Soviet citizen. Aganov's blood froze in his veins. He immediately understood this is not a double. To understand why this chance encounter caused a real shock in the Soviet special services, we need to go back to the very heat of the Eastern Front during World War II. Born into the family of a white army officer who hated the Bolsheviks, Yuhnovsky hated the Soviet regime from childhood. When Nazi Germany invaded the USSR in 1941, he did not resist. He gladly accepted the invaders. Fluent in German, he quickly joined the German secret and field police as an interpreter who he really was. The Germans nicknamed him Alex the Cruel, and for good reason. He was not just a cog in the Nazi killing machine, he was one of its most zealous operators. He personally supervised the mass shootings of tens of thousands of people. It was under his direct supervision that some 75,000 bodies were dumped into Mine No. 44 bis. Partisans, prisoners of war, and civilians. He made a bet with other executioners on how many people one bullet could penetrate by passing through the ranks, and tortured the prisoners, smiling softly as if he was having a pleasant conversation. But Yuhnovsky was not only a sadist, he was cunning and possessed an almost uncanny sensitivity to danger. Attempts on his life failed. He was once caught, but jumped out of a moving train. Locked up in a barn for the night, he escaped minutes before the KGB officers arrived to take him away. He had the instinct of a beast, the instinct of survival. When the Red Army began its relentless offensive in 1944, Yuhnovsky did his most audacious deed. He disappeared. Not to the west, following the retreating Germans, but to the east, right into the heart of the Soviet Union. He burned his Nazi uniform and documents, got lost among the refugees, and created a new identity for himself. Alexander Mironenko, a Soviet patriot whose documents were allegedly burned in the bombing. He even volunteered for the Red Army, used his literacy to get a job in an army newspaper and, to top it all off, forged papers to award himself a prestigious military award, the Order of Glory. For the next 30 years, Alexander Mironenko lived an exemplary Soviet life. He moved to Moscow, married, had a daughter, and built a successful career as an editor in major state magazines that were read by millions. A man whose hands were drenched in the blood of tens of thousands of innocents now drove a car, went to parents' meetings at school, and enjoyed the quiet routine of a respected intellectual. That his past is forever buried. But in May 1976, on that Moscow escalator, fate settled scores with him. Aganov reported the meeting, and the KGB began a secret investigation. The problem was to prove that this impeccable veteran was in fact a wanted war criminal. There were no fingerprints, and there were no Nazi documents directly linking him to the crimes, only suspicion. Knowing that Mironenko was ambitious, he was casually hinted that it was time to join the Communist Party, a crucial step for career advancement. It was then that his entire house of cards collapsed. Investigators quickly discovered that his Order of Glory was a fake. The serial number matched the real award given to another soldier who died in battle. Even in delirium, he refused to admit. Throughout the Soviet Union, they searched for survivors of the 44B's mine shootings. When the former prisoners were shown a photograph of Mironenko, the reaction was chilling. One former partisan fainted on the spot. Another immediately recognized him as the man who had shot the children at the edge of the mine. But the strongest testimony was given by Ivan Sokolov, a boy who was thrown alive into this pit in 1943 and who miraculously survived. His testimony was irrefutable. Faced with a mountain of evidence, Mironenko finally broke down. He confessed, but tried to present everything as a tragedy of youth. "I was misled," he claimed. "I was naive. I was used by the enemy." The court did not find this convincing. A mass of witness testimony, forged documents, 30 years of deception, everything pointed to one truth. In 1976, he was convicted of treason and war crimes. Sentence: execution. He was executed in 1977. Was he really a repentant victim of circumstances as he claimed, or a ruthless monster who had been hiding for 30 years under the guise of an ordinary man? All the evidence points in favor of the latter. This story leaves us with a terrible question. How many more ordinary faces in the crowd can hide unthinkable secrets behind them? And how long can evil remain buried, especially if someone is still alive to remember?